is Erich Hayes from the University of Oklahoma. Do you know who your friends are? An analysis of voting patterns and alliances on the reality television show Survivor.
Okay, this paper started as a network analysis, but we couldn't really do that because the 3-week, 30 to 40 day show is 3 days of summaries to 1 day. So is somebody really a friend with somebody or somebody not? So we looked at something objective, which was voting patterns, and that was something we could find, although it was more difficult to find than we thought it would be, but we found it. And I'll talk about a little bit about that. So just to give you an idea, the premise of Survivor is it's a show, as you may know, it's the greatest show on television. Contestants compete as tribes in various reward and immunity challenges. Players must survive by creating shelter, collecting food, and other tasks. Seasons last 40 days with players being voted out along the way. And then the winner is the player receiving the most votes at the end of the show from the people that they previously voted out. So that's kind of the premise of Survivor. You've probably seen other reality shows, Big Brother, America's Next Top Model, American Idol, another great show. But that's the premise of Survivor. So all good research has some sort of theoretical development. We use two kind of theories to drive our research. Social capital, we've said players that are best able to form alliances with others will be more successful. Then we use power, players that are very able to influence others will be more successful. So that's kind of what we were looking at. Methodology, so what was our process? Voting data was collected from the official Survivor site as well as various fan sites. What we found was that the Survivor site on CBS did not have what we were looking for. In fact, I even contacted CBS and said, can you give us this voting data? And they wouldn't give it to us for some reason. So we looked at various fan sites and we cross-checked because not every site had everything we were looking for. So, but then we cross-checked because it's just a fan site. So, we made sure that everything was correct. So that's where we got our data from. 15 of 18 seasons. They're now up to season 20. But at the time it was 18 seasons. We didn't use 2 seasons because it was survivors that had been on a previous season were brought back. And then 1 season, 2 survivors were voted out and then brought back. So they voted out twice and that messed with the data. So we just didn't use those. So 15 of the 18 seasons were used, which gave us a net of 257 survivor contestants, 16 to 18 participants per season, with 1 episode having 19, and 1 person was voted out. They got to the island and then they voted out. So sad. So, 257 total survivor contestants. And contestant buyers were used to collect demographic information. That was available on the Survivor website. The rest of it we had to go to various other sources. So, what were our participants, which is people on Survivor? They were aged 19 to 72 years, with a mean age of 33 and a half. Standard deviation of 10.61, so basically 20 to 45 was most of our participants, which is the survivors. There's an even split between male and female. 80% were white or Hispanic, with the remainder being minorities, and this will come up later, why that's important. Participants were mostly single, over 50%. And over 60% were from the western or southern United States. And they had diverse professions. We narrowed it down to 12 professions, and then the biggest category was other. And that was kind of hard to pick because, somebody retired that was formerly a teacher, what do you count them as retired or a teacher? So that was a little difficult. Okay, so variables, what were we looking at? The determinative variable was success in the game, which is basically how long you survived in the game, and if you won. And then our independent variables were alliances, friendship, popularity, and those were determined based upon voting patterns. And immunity and reward challenges were determined based upon the challenge computations we could find available to us. Okay, data analysis, what did we do? We did linear regression analysis with game success indicators, and what we were really looking for is episodes voted out, when they voted out, and their place in the game. And our predictive variables were game related, which was voting with the majority, immunity and reward challenges won, and then demographics were age, sex, race, marital status, occupation, and region. So that's what we looked at. So, let's look at our research questions. Now that we've talked about what we did. So, first one was, does voting with the majority predict where players will place in the television show Survivor? So if you're voting with the majority, everyone else votes with you, does that predict whether you're going to be successful? And pretty obviously that did. Voting with the majority was significant. at 0.01 predictor of being voted out later in place in the game. So if you were voting with the majority, that was good for you. Okay? So, research question 2. What are the reasons players are voted out of Survivor? So, if you get voted out, why did you get voted out? We found 220 specific reasons, and we summarized those down into 14 generalized reasons. The most common reasons were not having a strong alliance. So, a third of the people basically got voted out because they didn't have any friends on the game. So, second most common, which is kind of surprising, if you're being a physical social fit. So, if you have lots of friends or you were really strong, that actually worked against you. Personality classes, we expected this to be higher. What we found is, you can be as obnoxious or annoying as you want as long as people like you. So you can do whatever you want. You can steal food, you can be really strong, but as long as you have friends, you're only 10% likely to be voted out. And this is kind of interesting. If you're perceived as a physical liability, so if you're not strong enough, so if you're old, you're weak, not good for you. So don't be strong, don't be too weak, and that'll help you. And make lots of friends. We'll get to that later. Okay. So, third research question. How important are first impressions in creating friendships or alliances in the television show Survivor? Receiving a first vote later means players are more likely to succeed in the game. So, you get your first vote in the game, so you're voted out, somebody votes on you to be gone. That is that's not good for you. So now there's some exceptions to this. For those of you who are fans, the first season, Rudy, he was a 77-year-old. He was the oldest player on Survivor ever, but he was a Navy SEAL. And so people thought he'd be a liability because he was old. But it turns out a Navy SEAL had some pretty good survival skills. People liked him, and he made it all the way to the final show. He got third, but so receiving a vote isn't necessarily a deal clincher. But if you get your first vote early in the game, that's not good for you. So, fourth research question. How important is winning Unity Award challenges to players' success in the television Survivor? We said, well, this could work for you because it means you're a strong player. Could work against you because people will be jealous of you. Turns out, only reward challenges were a significant factor for being voted out later in the game. So, we win a reward challenge that's good for you because you invite your friends to come with you on the reward challenge. But immunity turned out not to be a predictor. So obviously you can't be voted out that episode, but it doesn't help you in future episodes. Okay. So now this was the real research question we were really interested in. Is there a way, so what roles do players' sex, age, race, marital status, occupation, or regional home play in determining their success in the television Survivor? So, is there a way to know if you're from a city, does that help you because maybe you have better social skills? If you're from a rural area, maybe that might help you because you have, maybe you can hunt, you can fish, you can start a fire. Is that going to help you? Turns out, no. Only race was a significant predictor for when the player is voted out. So, none of these other things were significant for being successful. And the other thing was regional. Only race and region were significant predictors for the number of overall votes. So the number of total votes you got. So, marital status, maybe if you're a divorcee, maybe you didn't get along with people, that could be a problem. Maybe if you were from a city, you wouldn't be able to survive in the you wouldn't be able to handle being in the rough and maybe if you were too old, that might hurt kids. You may be too young. None of those things matter. So, all right. So discussion. Let's talk about what we found. Receiving votes early makes success in the game less likely. So, first impressions are important. Voting with the majority is a good predictor for success. So, if you're voting with the majority, that's good for you to be as far as winning. Not having a strong alliance is the most frequent reason for being voted out. So, make your alliance, make some friends, get a good alliance. Okay, more discussion? Okay, so winning your reward and immunity challenge are a positive predictor for success. Now, remember, immunity is not a positive predictor for future success, just that you can't be voted in that particular episode. So, but winning your reward challenge works for you. Demographics don't impact game success except for race and region. And this is what I was getting at. White players are more successful. I don't know why. There's been Latino winners, there's been black winners, there's been Asian winners, but generally you get fewer votes if you're white. Now we want to know why this is, and without we can't be on the show. out there. But we kind of thought it was an identification thing because they've had a big problem getting minorities to apply. They've actually gone down to episodes where they recruited minorities to be on the show. And so we just think it's kind of an identification thing. There's other white players, I'm a white player. That's all we can really say. But so if you're white, you're more likely to get census. That's all we can predict. And then this was not as big of a deal, but players from the South or Northeast were less likely to receive votes than those from the Midwest or South, or Midwest or West. So if you're from the South or Northeast, you're going to be more successful. You're not going to get as many votes. For the Midwest or West, you're going to get more votes. And we kind of thought, kind of the city thing. If you're maybe you're around more people, that might help you. If you're rural, better survival skills. But that was not as big a deal as it wasn't predicted for winning, just getting fewer votes. Okay, so find yourself on Survivor. What do you got to do? This is the keys to winning. First of all, it's a 3-step process. 1, acquire friends, so make lots of friends on the game. 2, make alliances. And then the third thing is do these things early. And that's your key to winning Survivor. That's all I have. Thank you.